Welcome to Women on Men, the podcast where we explore masculinity through the eyes of women. Together, we challenge stereotypes, rethink traditional roles, and discover what it means to be a man today. I'm your host, Rafael Gomez. Welcome to Women on Men, where we explore modern dating, relationships, and how women really see men. Today's topic is the dating pursuit. My guest today is Brenna Lynn. She's a speech therapist, musician, and TikTok firebrand. If any guys listen to me, you should definitely be listening to her. I'm excited to hear from her. Welcome, Brenna.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
You and I have interacted a bit on TikTok. I'm a big fan of yours. I think you have some really great advice for men, and I think you bring up wonderful topics. I'm learning a lot myself. How did you start speaking about relationships on your social media channels?
That's a good question. So I just started making TikTok videos. Around 2020 when everybody was ending up on TikTok. And I was making all kinds of different content with all kinds of different topics. And I had some viral videos on completely different topics, like some nerdy, geeky stuff that I happen to be into. And all of a sudden, I had made a video that was kind of dating adjacent. Because what happened was somebody had come up and flirted with me out in the real world, which is not uncommon. But what can I say? No, it's not uncommon. People sometimes approach me and flirt with me. But what is uncommon is he made me feel really comfortable and even flattered. And even though I wasn't trying to pursue anything with him, I didn't find him particularly attractive. I found myself feeling very comfortable and good, and flattered. And I walked away from it feeling even though we didn't connect that way, it was a bright, positive encounter. And I was kind of analyzing it in my head because that's what I do with a lot of social things as a speech therapist. And I was thinking about what are some of the things that he did really well? And, why did that not make me feel uncomfortable or creeped out? Why did that make me feel good and comfortable and ultimately, flattered and positive? So I came home that day and I made a video about it. Just kind of goofing off on TikTok, made a video about a random topic. And it went totally viral. So it was it had, I think, 2 million views. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so many men were like, holy shit, this was super helpful. This was so enlightening. This actually just gave me a bunch of actionable tips. And so then they started asking questions and they wanted more videos and they wanted more tips. And it sort of turned into this little series of videos that I started doing called How to Flirt with Women Without Being Creepy. And again, I've been approached quite a bit by all kinds of different men. And so, and I'm a total flirt and I love being flirty and interacting with people. And so I really... and I talk to a lot of women and women who don't like being flirted with. And so I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on, what is in and of itself comfortable? What is good? What are good ways to approach women? Obviously nothing's 100%, but what are sort of principles and ideas and things that you can do that trigger different emotions? And what things should you avoid doing because they trigger different emotions? Because I think a lot of men, and I especially saw this in the comments, a lot of men, they're not trying to bother women. They're not trying to creep women out, and they don't really know what to do. There's not a lot of advice out there. And so they end up just trying nothing or, giving up or maybe even hating women because they don't have actionable advice or helpful tips. Or they turn to really shitty places on the internet that give really misogynistic tips and problematic tips that are not the best way to even interact with women. So long-winded answer there, but basically I kind of fell into it ass backwards. And before I knew it, all these people were asking questions and, turns out I'm really good at it. I'm really good at giving advice. Thank you. And I don't think that's just on accident. Like you mentioned, I'm a speech therapist. And I think that's one of the things that really makes my content different than really anything else on the internet that talks about dating stuff is it's not just that I'm a flirty girl who likes to, flirt with people and interact with people. I'm also a speech language pathologist. So a big part of my job is breaking down complex social nuanced situations for people who are struggling or have disorders that make social skills really difficult. And so this is part of my day-to-day work for all kinds of things, for interview skills, for friend making and children, for, making people comfortable in an airplane, right?
Yeah.
So all kinds of different things. And dating is just another offshoot of that. So it really is something that I think I'm very uniquely poised to talk about. And I've gotten so much positive feedback from most men online saying like, holy crap, everything on your page has helped me so much. People have told me they've gotten girlfriends or much more comfortable interactions with women, even fiancés. So really cool stuff. So long answer, but that kind of gives you my whole story from where I started to where I am now.
No, I love it. And again, I've seen a lot of this. I've seen a lot of the guys interact with your content. And I mean, I don't endorse a ton of content out there, but I wholeheartedly endorse yours because it resonates with my experience. And I think it's healthy advice for men. And I think you really are looking out for them. I think you're trying to give them the best advice possible, and you care about their well-being, and you don't want them sucked into these dark places of the internet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I really do care about men. I really love men. I love people so much, and men are people. So I'm a big fan of men. Obviously, I am a woman in the world today. Like, there's a lot of problems. And that's kind of the other side of my TikTok, as I'm sure you've seen some of my videos pop up. As I've gotten misogynistic comments or comments that are, that subtle misogyny where it's like, well, women do this because XYZ, not like I hate women, but, explanations that have undertones of misogyny. I do a lot of calling that out and talking about feminism and helping men understand women's perspectives outside of just the dating world, but in general. And that's just something I care about and I'm passionate about. And I really want to make it clear, I love men. I hate misogyny. And,
Right.
That's the important thing that I really stress on my page. I have a playlist about misogyny and feminism 101 that a lot of men have found very digestible for a beginner. And then I also have a playlist about things I love about men. And, so there's a lot of different things on my channel. And in some ways, they might not seem related, but I actually think they're all very related because I don't think you can be successful in flirting with women and talking to women and approaching women if you don't understand them. And if you don't understand misogyny and the culture of that women exist in, you're going to have a really hard time understanding women. So, yes, you want to understand them in the dating world, but if you can understand them in general and their struggles
Right.
in general, it's going to make it so much easier and so much more intuitive.
Yeah, if you can understand women as people first, then as people you want to date, I think it's very helpful in your approaches and your relationships going forward. I think that's a very good approach. Now, I know you're married. We're going to start the conversation about kind of general attraction, and I'd love to know, how did you meet your husband? Did he flirt with you in the way that you made a video about, or how did you guys come together?
Oh, yeah. I haven't made a video. So just so everybody watching or listening knows, my husband's he likes to be not seen. I'm kind of like, hello, everyone, I'm Brenna. And he's kind of like, I'm waiting in the wings and watching over her. So he's like my Batman, you know what I mean? No, but I could tell you our love story, how we met, what attracted me to him. So we actually met pretty young. We were at a Halloween party, and he knew my friend. And I think that is if there is one pro tip, there are no cheat codes in dating except one, and that is being friends with more women. Because if you're friends with women then that are women that you are not having any attraction with, but that you're just genuinely good friends with, you get invited to more things with women, you meet more women, you have women vouching for you. It is one good wing woman is worth a million wing men.
100%.
And so my husband actually was friends with my friend. And so she was throwing a party with another friend, and he was at that party too. We were in costume. It was a Halloween party, so it was pretty fun. And we were sitting on the couch talking. I was talking with him and a couple other guys too that I didn't really know. And, I met them and was talking to them, kind of a little bit flirting with everybody because, again, I'm a bit of a flirt. And for about 20 minutes, we were talking and really connecting and vibing. And I was dressed as a police officer. So, I know, very spicy. I had a handcuffs on my belt loop, and he handcuffed himself to me, and he goes, now you're stuck talking to me. And I laughed. Would not recommend that for most men. But the reason,
I like that move. I'll be honest. I like that.
It was really sexy, and I think it's like the thing that I want to like point out to men is like it was sexy, but for a bunch of reasons. It was confident, it was bold, it was flirty, it was funny. It was also very obviously not real. Like, he wasn't actually kidnapping me. They were plastic handcuffs. He didn't lead with that. If he led with that, I probably would have been really creeped out. But we had built some rapport first. We were also like safe and sound in my friend's home. Like, I wasn't like concerned of my safety. And you know, he he was getting that positive interaction back from me before he started to like make things more spicy and flirty and sexy. But he did do that, right? You can't never bring things into a flirty zone. Otherwise, you know, then a lot of guys are like, oh, I make friends with women, but they never want to date me. And I think it's like a different side where you're trying to be so respectful and so non-sexual that you don't build that heat and attraction with a girl. So basically, you know, he had a really good timing, really good reading my cues, and then was bold and confident to boot, and it all kind of came together. We went on a date. I actually was talking to, well, this is actually pretty good. He very wisely gave me his number instead of asked for mine. And, you know, I don't think there's necessarily like a wrong way to do it, but, I remember I was like playing with his phone because I was like looking at what music he listened to. Long story short, we talked like all night, like we talked for like 4 hours, but I looked at his phone. He thought I was going to put my number in and I didn't. And I just want to know what kind of music he liked. He ended up, giving me, he ended up asking to like see my phone. Like, you played with my phone, let me play with yours. And you know, the first thing he did is to put his number in. And I am so glad he did that because I was actually talking to a different guy at the time, and I had a date set up for the next day. And, you know, even though I was enjoying like this guy's company, I had a first date the next day with somebody else. I don't want to lead anybody on. So if he had asked for my number, like, I might have said no. And this is something I've talked about on my page before. Like, there's like a million reasons women might say no that have nothing to do with you. So like, Brandon seemed like a great guy, and I was enjoying talking with him and flirting with him. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to give him my number and like pursue something with him. I got another date set up, you know, and so it was good he gave me his number because I don't know if I would have given him mine if he had point blank asked for it, but he kind of put the ball in my court and worked out really well because the other guy stood me up. I didn't have a date.
No way.
Yeah, I know. Ian fumbled the bag and Brandon swooped in. So, but, you know, so I ended up texting him and, you know, we kind of connected and we went on a couple dates. And over time, you know, I became extremely attracted to him and really fell hard for him. And clearly the rest is history. So, you know, it's a good reminder that, like, you know, you might ask for something for a girl and she might not be into it. And that doesn't mean that, you know, that you're like damaged goods or like not good enough. You might be good enough to marry, but just have slightly off timing. And, you know, that's something to think about and kind of consider for men. But yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, I could go on and on about all kinds of things my husband did really well. You know, how he offered to pay for a date, but did it in a way that was really comfortable for me. And, you know, I could ramble on about how there was a time where I wasn't sure, like I was kind of going, I don't know if I like him, but like, because he was friends with my friend, like she vouched for him. So like that really helped him. You know,
that goes a long way.
Yeah. There's all kinds of little teeny tiny things that really like, you know, like he might not have been like doing something to really pursue me and chase me hard, but he was doing a lot of things right and doing a lot of things right in life. And that put him in a positive position to, if there was potential for us to have love, you know, it happened. So I think that's like, when I say like nothing's 100%, you know, you really see that. Whereas if a guy, there is no perfect prescription that you're going to get a perfect reaction. Right. But if you know how to do the dance and you know a couple things and you set yourself up well, then you're at least going to make the most possibility for someone to feel that attraction for you. And I think that's where a lot of men struggle.
I agree. I do want to go back to the initial attraction, the initial flirtation. So you obviously had a lot of options that night. You had a lot of guys that were talking to you. Was there something beyond his bold moves, which again, I wholeheartedly endorse? Once you get comfortable with somebody, letting them know, I'm really interested in you. I'm not playing around. Like, I think you're cool. I want to talk to you the rest of the night. I like that because they're either going to tell you I'm not interested, or you might go ahead and get what you want anyway. So I feel like go for it, shoot your shot. Do your thing.
Oh,
Don't play
100%.
coy.
Yeah, it's like when guys talk about the friend zone, I'm like, no woman has ever put a man in the friend zone. You put
Exactly.
yourself there, right? Like,
Exactly.
shoot your shot, accept the answer, move on, right?
Or
If
just be her friend if that's what you want to do.
right,
But if you
right.
had these ulterior motives, you're not in the friend. Like that's when you're in the friend zone. But if you really want to be someone's friend, you're just their friend.
Yeah, exactly. And you might be like, hey, I want to be their friend, but I'm also interested in them sexually. And I think that's okay. But like, shoot your shot then. And I've got a
Yeah.
lot of tips on my page about how to do that in the best way possible. but,
Nice.
but I agree with you 100% there.
Was there anything that attracted you before that bold move?
I mean, I was vibing with him and I was enjoying him. He seemed sweet. He didn't seem like a jerk in any way. He
What
was
about
able.
like looks? Like, I mean, no, he was in a costume, so maybe he might have been covered.
No,
But
no. So his costume, I could tell what he looked like in it. I mean, he was cute. Like I found him like good looking, but I mean, I don't know. I never really like, and I think this is really common for most women. It's not that looks don't matter. It's that looks don't really like draw us in, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like most women aren't like watching a bunch of porn or like staring at a guy's picture to like get off. Like that's just not what motivates us. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying looks don't matter. I'm saying that looks are not the most efficient way to sexually stimulate and attract a woman, right? We read our porn, we don't watch our porn because it's not so much about visual, it's about that interaction and that social dance that you do. And so, I found him good looking, but like, did I find him any more good looking than any other guy on the planet? Not really. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I have a video about this, about like how women conceptualize looks. The vast majority of men fall in the like the general, or vast majority of men fall in like the general category for women, which
Yeah.
is like somewhere between meh and kind of cute. Like it's like there's no men that just like make you salivate like that. And they might be like, oh, he looks good, but you're still not like trying to sleep with him. You
Right.
need that tension to build to really feel attraction. So like, was he attractive? Did I find him physically good looking? I mean, a little bit, but not more than like any of the other guys I was talking to. Not more than really anybody else at that party.
Yeah.
If guys want girls' eyes to bulge out of their head and go, oh god, he's so hot, like that's an unrealistic expectation for most women and most men. But finding him kind of cute, like that's kind of common for women.
Yeah.
But what really drew him to me, so that I did notice his looks, but what drew me to him was definitely more just like I said, he could hold a conversation. I remember him being funny. And I remember him being flirty. So like before he did the handcuff thing, he dropped in lots of like little moments of like insinuating that he found me attractive, he found me pretty, he wanted to get to know me more, right? Like he made it clear, like he didn't like love bomb me, but he made it clear that like he found me engaging, he found me attractive, and he did like low level flirting to see how I responded. And when I responded positively, like then he kind of turned up the heat a little bit. And I think that's kind of how you want to do it. You want to start in like a safe space. If she seems comfortable, then you can push it a little more. If she seems uncomfortable, pull back. If she seems comfortable, push it a little more. So I feel like, he showed me that he was interested in me. He was bold. He also was like, this is so random, but like he was a drummer. And so he was like doing a lot of like drumming, like there was music playing and he would like drum on his leg. And like, I just found that really sexy. So like little things like that, like skills, boldness, being funny. I mean, again, I could go on. I think like throughout our dates, he was very sweet. He was very like forward and direct and showed what he wanted to do. He was polite. He was very funny. I remember like I definitely like really fell hard for him as I saw him be funny, throughout our first couple dates. But yeah, that's the big stuff that really attracted me to him. And then a bunch of random stuff too.
Yeah, and all of that matches my experience dating as well. Like I don't think I've ever gotten a date just because of how I looked. I think it's always been the other stuff. Maybe looks gets the door open a little bit, like it kind of gets your foot in the door, but it can easily close just as fast if you don't have the personality or the social skills, which I think you said something very interesting. I always encourage men, when you're talking to a woman for the first time, approach it kind of from a neutral to slight romance perspective, because I think you want them to know that you are interested in them, maybe romantically or more than friends. But obviously you need to read their social cues. You need to understand, do they feel comfortable? Should should I, like you said, continue to pursue it, or should I pull back? They're not interested. And I think it is important to make your intentions clear. I think that gives them, either a sign of what you're looking for, or it also shows your confidence. It shows that you're also assertive. You go for what you want. And I think those are all things that women are either going to find attractive in you, or if they don't find it attractive, you know pretty quickly, well, this isn't the one for me.
Yeah, yes and no. I have some thoughts on that. I think
Okay.
that I do think a lot of men, I think more men err on the side, and maybe not the ones listening to you, but in general, more men err on the side of coming on way too strong. And I think that's because they're trying to do like what you said, like making their intentions clear. And I think that's really problematic, and that's really problematic for women. Like, I don't know what's the best or worst way to turn over results. Maybe if you don't come on strong enough, that's not good for results, but that is exceptionally uncomfortable for women. So I definitely
Sure.
don't advocate coming on super strong. And I know that's probably not what you're saying necessarily,
No.
but I think that most men make the mistake of coming on too strong because, and that's what triggers that creepy feeling, because
Yeah.
creepiness is all about ambiguity of threat, and you're not sure if this guy is safe or not safe. But within immediately, I know that if a man is approaching me, he probably finds me attractive. Like, if
Right.
this woman has been out in the world, she knows that most men find her attractive. And if a random man is approaching me, I'm pretty sure I know why he's doing that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think you need to communicate your interest right away necessarily. What you want to be really direct about is like making sure she's comfortable with you approaching her. And then you can absolutely let her know that you find her beautiful. But the most important first thing that you need to communicate to women is you need to ask for their consent to continue talking to them. You need to ask for permission. And that can be very flirty and direct too, but you always ask. So this is what I teach, and that's especially if somebody's not good at reading cues. You might be better at reading cues than some of the guys listening to you.
Sure.
So what I always recommend is if you're bad at reading cues, be direct. Ask a direct question, get a direct answer. Now you don't have to do any reading. You can get a hard yes, a hard no. So, but what you should do is starting, you don't want to start with like, do you want to love me forever? You
Right.
start with just getting consent to talk to them for a few minutes. So the first thing you want to do is you approach them. You would say something like you don't need to say your name. You don't need to hardly greet them. What you need to do is ask, is it okay if I'm talking to you? So you might ask something like, hey, I find you really beautiful. Is it okay if I talk to you for a minute? I think that's the best of both worlds because you do exactly what you said. You let them know,
Yeah.
I find you beautiful. But you also are, the first words out of your mouth are asking permission to talk to her for a short amount of time. And
that.
what's so good about that is, number one, there's no cue reading necessary. She can say yes or no. You can even give her an out. Like, I think you're really beautiful. I'd love to sit and talk to you for a minute if you're not busy. And now she can say, no, I'm busy. And now as long as you smile and say, okay, no problem, have a nice day, and leave her alone, you're pretty much guaranteed to not be creepy. And again, that's what personally I think is the most important thing is don't fuck up women's lives. Like, don't make women uncomfortable and scared. So, start there. But it's great because then if she says yes, you are welcome to talk to her for a few minutes of time. She might have some interest in you. And so it really takes away that guesswork. And I think it also lets you start in a comfortable spot. I think a big mistake that a lot of men make is they start to just try to talk to a girl. They're not really, they're kind of creeping her out because they're too forward and not forward enough at the same time, right? They might not be saying, I find you hot and sexy, but they are not, they're like, how are you doing today? Okay, if I don't want to talk to you and you say, how are you doing today? Like, what am I supposed to say? I can't be like, hey, leave me alone, freak. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do that. No woman, very few women are going to do that. But so I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm good. And I'm going to be looking away and I'm going to be trying to show you with my body language, like, I don't want to talk to you. But if you ask me, then I can let you know point blank, yes or no. The other thing that it does that really starts you off strong is it lets her know within 4 seconds that you're a man who cares about her consent and her boundaries. Yeah. And that is so important because I might not be thinking about that, but it does impact how I see you in my independent, in my threat detection centers of my brain, right?
Right.
Because I've had this happen before where a guy started coming towards me and I'm like, oh my God, don't talk to me, don't talk to me, don't talk to me, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. And then he stops farther away from me and he's like, hey, I think you're pretty. Can I talk to you for a second? And I'm like, yeah, because he asked permission before coming up to me. And so now I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable. It's just for a little bit. I'll talk to him. I'll see where it goes. It just really changes it. So I've had a lot of men who told me that they thought they were ugly. And and then I gave them this tip, and like literally I told this to one guy on a Monday, and on Thursday he's like, oh my God, that worked so well. Like I've got a date set up for Saturday. So I was like, dang, maybe you're not as ugly as you think. You might have just been making women feel like they had to show you, like you might have been creeping women out without intending to. So, sorry, I know I tend to give long-winded answers, so if you want me to move on, feel free to let me know.
No. This is good advice. I want men to hear this.
Yeah.
Like I want you to, this is what I do this for. Like I think that's great advice. I do think, I think what I was saying is kind of similar, but I think like approaching women, you have to understand that you might make them uncomfortable just out the gate, no matter what your intentions are, no matter how good of a guy you are. They're out in the world, they're experiencing men. You have to take, I think showing empathy for their situation goes a very long way.
Yeah.
And I think your approach should reflect that.
Yeah, and I have something that it just came to me in a vision. So you said like you want to show interest. And what it really is women know when you're approaching them that you're probably at least somewhat sexually interested in them, because they know that's how men work, right?
Yeah.
So, but what is nice is when a man is direct about like, here are my intentions. Like think about how much calmer you feel when you know what someone's intentions are versus when it's like one time I had somebody knock on my door and I opened the door and he's like, hey, do you have a minute to hear about our pest control options? And I was like, all right, sure, I'll listen to your pest control options. But I was comfortable because I knew I was there. When I was walking up to my door, I'm like, I'm home alone. There's a man on my porch. What is going on? But when I opened the door, he immediately told me, here are my intentions. And that put me at ease, right? I've also had someone knock on my door. This is true story. I open the door, same thing. I'm home alone. There's a man at my door. And he's like, hello, ma'am. And I'm like, hello. And I'm like holding the door closed because I'm like, I'm about to have to go run and get a gun.
Right.
And he's like, how are you doing today? And I was like, I'm good. Like, why are you here? So
right.
I'm feeling increasingly uncomfortable for every second I don't know his intentions. He ended up wanting to talk to me about Jesus, but I wish he would have started with that because I was so uncomfortable that it didn't matter what he was saying. It didn't matter if he was selling me pest control or talking to me about Jesus. I was on high alert discomfort because I didn't know what his intentions were. So I do think like maybe I came out a little too strong saying you shouldn't show intention that you're flirting because women know that. But I do think maybe why it's been helpful for you is probably because now you pointed at the elephant in the room and acknowledged it and made her understand exactly what was happening. No one wants to not know what's happening to them. It makes them automatically feel uncomfortable, which is the cousin to being creeped out. And if you can make people comfortable by stating your intentions, I think you're pretty. I want to talk to you more. Okay, now I feel at ease because I know what's happening. I might say yes. I might say no. I might already have somebody doing pest control. I might be interested. I don't know, but I do know what's happening. And so I'm not uncomfortable anymore. Does that make sense?
Right. It makes total sense. I was also piggybacking off the idea that I don't want guys to approach women and I don't want to say friend zone themselves, but basically if you're not flirty, if you're not being, any kind of, and you're not engaging in a way that shows romantic interest, I think that can also be a detriment as well. If you are trying to talk to a woman who might even give you the time of day, but if you approach it like I'm your friend, I think there should be at least a slight tilt towards I'm interested in you more than friends.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think again it goes to actually being clear about your intentions, right? If you don't have any romantic interest in her, if you have romantic interest in her and you're faking being a friend, that's problematic too, right?
Exactly.
So I think you're right. I think there's definitely some truth to that. And I think that men really have to look at themselves and think about what are their struggles. Are they creeping women out? Are they getting harsh, angry, mean rejections? Because that's a defense mechanism that women do. So or are they getting a lot of females feeling comfortable around them, but they are not feeling any, nobody wants to feel sexual with them or romantic with them. So I think men have to think about what are my actual struggles and then pay attention to what that means they need to work on. Do they need to be better at sending those flirty signals, getting the flirty vibes, making things spicy, being attractive? Or do they need to work on making sure a woman feels comfortable? So I really think, and I talk about that a little bit on my page, but the more men think about themselves and their own personal struggles, it's going to help them tailor the dating advice to what they actually need rather than just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
I like that a lot. I think something we talked about during our live that we did a while ago. I think it was you. You talked about how when a man handles rejection well, it's also attractive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think one time, I think you said you were like, "Hold on, actually come back here," or one of your friends did that. Or
Somebody in my comment said that. They were like, "Wait,
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
on,
yeah.
come back."
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
not
think
only
that's
is it
interesting too.
respectful, it's also it can be attractive. And I actually had a guy reach out to me once. He was really confused. He's like, "Why do he's like, how come?" He's like, "I know I'm trying to believe women." And he's like, women say they want a man who like gives them attention and stuff. He's like, "But I I was talking to a girl at the bar, and then, I kind of left, like, she was doing something with her friends, and then I, like, left her alone. I ignored her. And then she came back and wanted to talk to me again. So what the heck, Brenna?" And I was like, "No, that's actually awesome." And I said, "It's not that she wants to be ignored. It's that you just proved to her that you are safe. You are unlikely to stalk her. You can handle me not giving you all the attention you want. Like, it was him, handling, like, he thought he was rejected. So he was handling rejection well, and she came back and wanted to talk to him. Another guy told me that he had followed my tips, and he said he had asked a girl if she wanted to talk at a bar. She said no, she was having a girls' night. And then he's like, "Okay." And he's like, "No problem, have a good rest of your day." Left her alone, right? He said, like, a couple hours later, she and her friends were leaving that bar, and she stopped and asked for his number, and then they were texting later that day, or later that night, and he was like, he's like, "I was blown away." And I'm like, well, it's because, again, like, a lot of times women are saying no for other reasons, but because you handled that well, because you were happy and comfortable and safe and respectful, she might go, well, she might have really truly been busy having a girls' night, but, I'm sure her and her friends were like, that was kind of, like, maybe you should talk to him, you know what I mean?
Talk to him, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so, it worked out for him. So I think you should do it for a bunch of reasons. One, it's the right thing to do, and it's respectful, but yeah, it's crazy how much that can actually, like, make him more attractive because it shows he's confident, but also make him, like, sometimes you can't even think about if you're attracted to a guy because you're too busy being on alert of if he's safe or not. Well, he just showed you he's safe. Okay, now I can sit back and think, like, maybe
and
I
analyze.
Yeah, like, maybe I do find him attractive, right?
Yeah.
Because women take a long time to figure out their attraction level. Like I said, it kind of has to build over time. Even with my husband, I wasn't like, "Oh my God, hottest man on earth." I was like, now he's the hottest man on earth, but that had to build for me.
Right. And I think, I do tell men that handling rejection like a champ, it shows you're confident, it shows respect for them, and it shows that you have self-respect for yourself.
Yeah.
That you're not gonna, like, start berating them because they rejected you. That shows that you're pretty insecure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think walking away and saying, "Have a good night," and I think that's gonna be like, "Oh, that guy respects himself, he respects me," and I think that's kind of interesting.
100%. Yeah, I mean,
It's
like
a breath
I said,
of fresh air.
I've seen it in action. I know I'm, like, going on of stories, but to really drive it home for anybody listening who's not sure, one time my friend and I were at this, like, bar and grill type place, and we were with her sister, who was, like, 17. Like, we're getting food, right? And her sister is, like, a literal child. And these guys come up to us and they start talking to us, but instead of I don't know if they asked for permission, but I do know that they came up, they were talking to us. They were clearly trying to flirt with us, right? And, we were kind of like, yep, giving them one-word answers. Like, we're not going to flirt with him. Like, we are with her child sister. Like, no, don't talk to us. I think he might have asked to buy us a drink or something. And we're just like, no, thank you. And it was these two guys, and they were like, "Okay, no problem. Well, you guys have a good night. We're going to be at the bar until, like, midnight, and then we're going to be across the street after that. Feel free to come by. We'd still love to buy you a drink, And so we're like, "Okay, bye." So they, like, handled it really well and also told us how we could connect with them if we wanted to.
That.
Yeah, and so, they didn't know why we were saying no. They didn't know how old her sister was. So, he went and they left, right? They left us alone. They were really polite. And so we continued eating our meal. We drove her sister home, and then we're like, "Well, what do we do tonight?" And we're like, "We could go back to the bar. Like, those guys were kind of nice, But because they didn't, like, freak us out, we're like, "Hey, let's now consider that." And like you said, it was attractive. Like, it showed that they were, like, secure within themselves. So we went back and we ended up talking to them, and I think she made out with one of them. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good night. It was a good night. Yeah, and I mean, it's really because of the way those guys handled our, quote unquote rejection.
So before we transition into relationships, well, we've been talking a lot about asking people out in person, which is something that I advocate for men constantly. I personally want men to get off dating apps. I think it's just a losing game for them. And I think that kind of attraction, I think, is very superficial. I think there's something about real life pursuit And what do you think about that, like in terms of how people have approached you or your experience with dating apps?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, dating apps, I think what's good about them is it's really easy and low barrier to entry, right? You don't have to do any of the scary parts. But, low risk, low reward, right? So it's easy to do, but it can also be kind of depressing. It can be very slow. You don't get quick answers if someone likes you or not. It can be exhausting in its own way. It's nice because you can do it from home without your pants on, sitting in your bed. Like, that's awesome. But it also is, it can be, if you're struggling, it can make you just burn out and feel exhausted, even though you didn't actually really talk to anyone or flirt with anyone. You might feel a lot of rejection, even though you didn't actually do anything, right?
Right.
And like you said, it is a losing game for men because, number one, there's more men on there. Number two, that's just not how women feel attraction. There's a very different, even if you have a really funny profile thing, like, there's a big difference between my brain, like, being like, oh, this guy seems funny, and me, like, seeing a man be funny in front of me with his eyebrows moving at just the right time and the sparkle in his eyes and the way his mouth twitches up and he says that funny, flirty thing at exactly the right time. Like, that is so attractive. Yep. I mean, they're like, it's like a different chemical reaction in your body. Like it's like the difference between, like, hearing, like, oh, that girl's got big boobs, and, like, seeing boobs move in front of you, and you know what I mean? Like, there's a big difference, right? And that's the thing, like you don't activate those parts of women that, like, make them hot for you and, like, make them wet for you, and like you're not going to be able to do that on a dating app the same way. A dating app is maybe a way to start, but you're not going to have that, like, intense attraction until you're in person. So
Oh, sorry.
No,
I think, like, let's say the same guy that you met at a bar that made you laugh, he gave you his number, whatever, however it worked for you. Then that same guy's on the dating app, and let's say you make a date with them on the app. I think the likelihood that you'll cancel the date through the app is going to be a lot higher than the chances you're going to cancel the date of the guy who you met in person, you interacted with them, and you got a sense of who they are.
Exactly. You also know that, like, okay, I enjoyed, I mean, when you meet somebody in real life, it's almost like you start on your first date, right?
Oh, I like that.
Like, especially in a bar, like when somebody buys you a drink and you sit and talk to them for an hour, you basically just started your first date. Right.
I like that.
And I mean, I know a lot of people who have met their partners out in the world, and, like, they kind of do count that as, like, their first date a lot of time. But it's almost like you're starting in a date. So it's so much more efficient. And like I said, it doesn't burn you out the same way. You already had a chance the women have already had a chance to vet you and feel comfortable with you. They're way more likely to want to maybe do something more like I don't know, go for a walk or something that normally I might go, I should make sure I stay in a really public place, or, I was comfortable with my husband picking me up for a date because we had already met. He also knew my friend, but I also was like, this guy feels very safe, and I don't think he's gonna, like, do anything bad. But if I met a guy on an app, like, no way in hell is he picking me up from my home. But yeah, the dating apps, it's like there's pros and cons, right? I don't think it's bad to have a dating profile, but I do think men should monitor their mental health while they're using them. If you feel like you're burning out, like, pause it, take a break, because it's just going to make you bitter and not actually do anything for you. And meeting people in real life is just so much more powerful. Another good example is, like, again, you're not activating the same parts of that woman's brain on an app versus in real life. And a good example of this is my one friend. She is really picky about height. Not every woman is, but this woman, she definitely is. I'd say, like, a lot of women don't care that much about height, but, like, this girl is a self-proclaimed girl who really cares about height. She's tall. She doesn't want a guy who's shorter than her. She's tall. She wants a tall guy. That's really important to her. Like, that's a big thing. So much so that when she has a dating app, the first thing she does is scroll to the guy's height, and then she either swipes away, like, she continues looking, and she starts looking at other things, right? Like, that's how height obsessed this girl is. Definitely not the norm, but it does happen, and she's an example of it. But guess what? I've gone out to bars with her, and I have seen her flirt with guys who are shorter than her cutoff range because they had good chemistry. because they were talking. She doesn't notice his height because she's getting all that other feedback and that other sexual stuff. So especially if you're like a really hot guy, you know, maybe dating apps are kind of easy and, you know, low barrier to entry for you. But if you're like a guy who feels like you're not super attractive on your looks alone, you are shooting yourself in the foot if you're just focusing on dating apps, because women can't see the hot parts of you. And again, like hot is hot. It doesn't matter if it's coming from your height or your big hands or your, you know, good muscles or your pretty eyes or your funny charm or your, you know, sweetness and good listener. You know what I mean? Like there's so many ways.
How you treat the bartender, how you treat the waitstaff, how you treat all that stuff.
Yeah, there's just so much more. You're just, what you are is you're limiting her to like only looking at looks. And like I said, that's just not an effective way to attract most women. That's why most women only find like a very small percentage of men attractive on looks alone. Like if I had met my husband on a dating app, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if I would have swiped on him. I don't think I would have been on a dating app because no men would look attractive to me on there. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent there. I do have tips because like I said, it is low barrier to entry. I've got a playlist. Men have paid me to review their dating profiles and, you know, give my feedback on, you know, their pictures, what it looks like to a woman who doesn't know them. Because it's one thing if you show your friends, but your friends know you, so they know all the things that make you sexy. I don't. I'm only seeing a profile the way a stranger does, and I'm going to be like, that's not hot. It doesn't matter. Your friend might be like, but you're a catch. But I'll be like, nope, that's a bad picture. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, and really point out why. And so I've made a lot of those videos. A lot of men have found them helpful. And honestly, I've had so many men follow up with me and say, oh my God, Brenna, I got so many more matches after following your tips. So, you know, can't like a dating app, I think you can tailor your profile. You can try to, you know, make that a good space. But I also think that if you're struggling on the dating apps, take a break from them, step away from them, and ultimately practice real life, because even if you meet on a dating app, you're eventually going to get to real life. And I've heard so many men say, I have no problem getting matches, but I go on the date and I never get a second date because girls tell me there was no spark, or, you know, whatever. We went on a date and it didn't go anywhere. And I think that's because they're over-relying on the dating app. So even, you got to work on real life. You can have a dating profile or not, but if you don't work on real life, you're screwing yourself over, because eventually you're going to have a relationship in real life, even if you meet on an app.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, you have to know how to navigate real life, because eventually you got to get off the phone.
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of men struggle right now.
Before we move into the main topic, I do want to get a little bit into relationships and kind of like those dynamics and your opinion on them.
Sure.
When you guys got married, were there expectations for your husband that you had, that you were like, oh, he needs to be doing this and I'm going to be doing this, like kind of roles or anything like that?
No. I mean, I really pride myself on being a very non-sexist person. You know, I'm a feminist. I'm also an anti-sexist. And so I really don't want there to be sexism of any kind. And so, you know, we didn't have like a, you're the man, so you do this. You're the woman, so you do that. And that's, especially I think in society in general, I do think we're hopefully trending that direction. Although you never know, there's movements always trying to fight progress. But, you know, so no. That being said, we, in every relationship, I think you do settle into your own roles. And how you decide those is up to you. I think as long as they're equitable, then it doesn't matter. You know, my parents had a really traditional relationship in so many ways, but there was so much mutual respect. You know, they divided labor up in a way that was equitable and equal. And, you know, they had a bunch of jobs that needed done: laundry, dishes, taking care of the kids, bringing in a paycheck. They divided that up in a way that made sense for them, and then they shared all the resources. So equal resources, equal labor. For them, it was very traditional gender, you know, roles that followed traditional gender roles. But it also wasn't. You know, my mom used power tools. My dad did the laundry a lot. So, you know, there's different things. As long as both people feel like it's equal and one of you isn't relaxing a lot while the other one's working, you know, then I think there's a million ways that you can divide up things in a relationship. So, for example, we don't have anything where he does that because he's the man and I do this because I'm the girl. But I like to cook. I'm a good cook. So I usually do most of the cooking.
Right.
He doesn't expect that from me and he appreciates it from me. But, you know, I do that. And I'll even, like, if he has friends over, like, I'll crack open a beer and bring it over to them. And, like, you know, some women might be like, you shouldn't do that if you're a feminist, but I know that it's not an expectation and it's something that I like to do and enjoy doing. He scrapes off the snow off my car because I hate the cold, and he shovels the driveway because he's stronger than me, and so it's a little easier for him. So there are some things that follow, again, like somewhat traditional gender roles, but it's not you do this because you're a man. It's you do this because your body is better suited for this. You feel
You're more
comfortable.
capable.
Exactly. And there are things that I'm more capable of, like the cooking or whatever. And, we divide that up in a way that feels equitable and fair to everyone. So long-winded answer again, but I would say no expectations, but there was, division of labor in a way that made sense for us specifically.
I like that. Yeah, that's how our marriage is as well. My wife likes to cook. She's vegan, so she started to learn all these vegan recipes. And I still eat meat, but she makes really good stuff. So like I eat it, but I always do the dishes because it's like, she cooked. I'm very appreciative. I'll take care of all the curry, pots, and I'll take care of all that. So, we divide in that way, but there's no expectations. There's times where I've out-earned her. There's times where she's out-earned me, and it's never been an issue.
Yeah.
I love my marriage, and I'm curious how other people approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you brought up the money thing too. Like, so yeah, both my husband and I work, but when we have kids someday, like we do want to have a stay-at-home parent and one person working if we can. And we've talked about it. Like it would make sense for me to be the one that stays home. Because I'm a speech therapist. I'm an expert in child development, and that's something that I want to do. And so again, somebody might look at that and go, "Oh, you've got a trad wife," but I'm not a trad wife. I'm Brenna and Brandon deciding how we split labor in a way that works for us. And
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of ways to do it. That there's so many ways to do it in a way that's equitable and fair. So I don't think, like a man asked me before, like, should I feel guilty if I like want to, pay for a girl's date and she didn't want that? And it's like, as long as you respect what she wants and you guys work together on it, there's a million ways that you can break things down and have it be equitable and fair.
Yeah, I always say there's like 7 billion ways to live a life. You
Yeah.
know, there's each one can do whatever they choose, and there's no one way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like hearing that, and hopefully other people can approach relationships without such strict guidelines and boundaries.
Yeah, and just because we both talked about traditional stuff, I just want to give an example. It's very different than that. My brother is engaged, and his fiance, she really loves her job. And they're actually both engineers and they both have high-paying jobs, and they both work right now. But similarly, they've talked about what they'll do when they have kids, and they said they want to have a stay-at-home parent. And my brother is the one that'll probably stay home because he's very
Nice.
empathetic and good with emotions and good with kids, and she's somebody who like really is career driven, and so they'll do the exact opposite of traditional, but it doesn't matter because again there's that respect, there's that care for one another, that's that equitable division of labor, equitable division of resources. So again, I don't, you can do it totally traditional, you can flip the script, and it's going to be fine as long as you follow those equitable principles.
Exactly. So the main topic, and we've kind of been covering it a little bit, it's about the dating pursuit. I see a lot of comments from men that say, when I'm talking about approaching women, how to do it, how to do it respectfully, and how to do it with confidence. And a lot of men say, why don't women approach me? And I don't have the best answer on
I
that.
do.
Okay, great. So yeah, who do you think should pursue and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think it's a matter of should. I don't think anyone should. Because again, I don't think that men should do this because they're men and it's their job. Like, no, that's not true at all. And I do have some videos about this topic. Women don't really approach as much for a variety of reasons. The first one being that most of the time, women just don't think about men like the way men think about women. What you have to understand about women, and I'm going to talk a little bit about biology, and a lot of people get upset when I do that sometimes because they're like, are you just pushing bioessentialism? No, I do have a degree in biology. I'm not just some dude with a podcast mic. I actually have a degree in this, and I know what I'm talking about. And of course, these are just trends. Everything in biology is trends. Men tend to be taller, but that doesn't mean men are always taller, right? But in general, women, they have a monthly cycle that largely dictates not their emotions, but their body state. Hormones, changes in hormones impact body. When you think hormone, think body. They're body signalers. And so men have much more consistent day-to-day hormones. You get hungry around the same time, you get tired around the same time, you might even feel aroused around the same time, right? And women, they have daily cycles, but they also have this superimposed monthly cycle. And that means that all kinds of things are impacted on a month-to-month basis. So just like men are consistent, we're consistent too. We're just consistent on a month-to-month cycle. We fluctuate throughout the month, but we're consistent month to month, okay? And so as our hormones fluctuate, a lot of things change. Our appetites change, how much nausea we're experiencing changes, our energy changes. So, in the beginning of my cycle, I'm good with, I'll eat anything. Like, it's delicious food, so good. And I can run further and all these things. And, I'm feeling good. I don't need as much sleep. And then later in my cycle, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to meet my friend. I'm just going to stay and watch Netflix. And also my tummy's kind of bubbly. Like, that favorite food I liked a couple of weeks ago, like, I don't want that now. I don't know what I want because I'm kind of hungry, but I'm also kind of nauseous. And that's normal.
It's a horrible
for
way to
women.
live.
Exactly. And I think understanding this concept makes a lot of things about women start to make sense to men, like why we never know where we want to eat. Like, it's not because we're crazy, it's because our hormones impact our appetite and our nausea.
Absolutely.
And so, so there's all kinds of stuff like that. And also it impacts horniness. Again, hormones impact body sensations. Horniness isn't really an emotion the way sadness is. It's a body sensation, your arousal, your interest in women. It's kind of consistent day to day, your energy, arousal, interest in women. For men, it's kind of consistent day to day. For women, it fluctuates like crazy, right? So most of the time, I'm living my life not really prioritizing or thinking about men, new men, sex with men. It's just not the most important thing to me. And it's a biological reality because if you look at biologically, it doesn't make sense for me to be having sex. Like biologically, it's stupid for me to pursue that and waste energy on that instead of, making my space clean, building my community, all these other things. Like, it's stupid to do that. It's a waste of energy and resources when there's no chance of pregnancy. Whereas for a man, your chance of pregnancy is the same every day of causing a viable pregnancy. So men are sort of the same level of sex is a high priority every single day, right? Unless something is wrong, sex is usually a high priority, right?
Absolutely.
And I think most men can relate to this. They feel like, I always want sex the same amount. I don't care if there's dishes in the sink. I want sex more than that. Like, I'll do the dishes later, And women, we're a lot of times, it's like, it's not that we can't be turned on other times of the month, but it's just not a priority. So most of my time in my life, I'm not thinking about men. I'm not thinking about sex. I maybe think about sex, I don't know, once a day, once every 3 days, And I'm not even noticing men any more than I'm noticing women. I don't know. Like, men are they're just there. They're not special. Like, I'm not hyper aware of them. And then ovulation happens, okay? And right before ovulation, women's hormones change. Our testosterone spikes. For 24 hours when we are most likely to get pregnant, we become as horny as men are, okay? We suddenly, also our PRs in the gym go up 11%. Our body temperature goes up. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. So our testosterone spikes, and all of a sudden, we are suddenly aware of men as much as men are aware of us. We want sex as much as men want sex with us. So again, I can be convinced to be getting in the mood at any time of the month. But again, if I'm thinking, I'm not gonna be able to enjoy sex if I'm thinking about the dishes in the sink or the laundry, I'm not gonna be able to. Except when I'm ovulating, then fuck the dishes, I don't care. But most of the time, that's not the case. But for in a woman's 28-day cycle, which is just average, 28-day cycle, I've got a 35-day cycle. There's 24 to 48 hours where she is thinking about men as much as men are. So if you do the math, that's less than 5% of the time. Most of the time, women just aren't thinking about men, having a big desire to meet new men, wanting to risk their safety to meet a new man. And once you have a relationship with a man, then I'm much more willing to explore things with him because I feel safe with him. I feel comfortable. We've got rapport. There's other emotions involved. It's not just about my arousal and energy. But most of the time, women are just not operating on the same level of intrigue in men that men are for women. It's not bad. It's not good.
Right.
It's neither. It just is. And so most of the time, hormonally, women are just not motivated to meet new men. I think this is also why men are more likely to pay for dates. They are really motivated to meet new women, right? If you told my husband, hey, you could talk to a pretty girl and all you gotta do is spend $10 on drinks, right? He'd be like, sold, where do I sign my name, And for me, I'm like, I don't care about meeting new men. It's not that I think I'm better than them. It's not that I think I'm worth more than them. It's that I'm like, I don't care that much. I just genuinely don't. So I don't think men should pay for dates or men should approach. But I think that men are much more inclined to. They tend to want to more than women do because they're more motivated daily to pursue new things with women. So I think that having that mindset is a really important thing so that men don't burn out, right? You might have done everything right. You might be perfect. You just flirted with her in the dead of her luteal phase and she just doesn't have the energy to talk to men right now. She doesn't care that much. It's not that you're bad. It's that hormonally, it's like offering someone food when they're really full. That could be your favorite food, but you're full right now and it doesn't matter. So you're going to say no and decline it. And that's the thing with women. Again, it's not just men, it's food too. Mac and cheese. I love mac and cheese. I love mac and cheese. But there are certain times where I'm like, I don't want mac and cheese. It just sounds too heavy in my tummy right now, and it's when I'm in my luteal phase. And so I think it's important to understand, like, women might be like, I don't really care about you right now. And that doesn't mean that you're bad. You might be beautiful mac and cheese, but it doesn't matter because she's just not at the right time where that spark is going to happen. So I think it's helpful to, I don't think you need to pathologize anything. I don't think one's better than the other. But I think understanding this really helps men not get bitter and angry and instead realize, like, hey, that's just part of the biological reality of biological tendencies of human beings and how they operate. She's just not in a hormonal state to feel really turned on, aroused, interested. That doesn't mean she can't be. Exactly. It doesn't mean she can't be. It just means that it's not going to be as, like, she's not as motivated to do it, right? And over time, again, as you build other things, like, I can absolutely be in the mood to have sex any time of the month. But, I think there are definitely times where it takes a little more of the stars aligning in times where it happens where I'm like, I'm feral, right? But yeah, again, I think it's important for men to realize, like, that's a small window biologically where women feel about them the way they feel about women every day. And it's okay. Again, it's not better or worse. It just is.
Yeah, no, I think you said something very interesting. And this is something that me and my wife joke about a lot because I met her at my job and she sat like right in front of me in a cubicle. And I, of course, noticed all the pretty girls in the office. I mean, that's just like what guys do. You're like, oh, that girl's pretty, that girl's pretty. But she caught my eye and I eventually was like, I'm going to talk to her eventually. When the moment strikes, I'm going to strike. It's weird with coworkers. You don't want to like push a boundary. You don't want HR involved. So I needed to like kind of wait it out. We ended up going to a work event. I talked to her and she was like, it was just very casual conversation. We talked about California. We were in Texas at the time and thinking about, I wanted to move out here. She was thinking about moving back out here. And that was a nice conversation. The first time I ever really talked to her. Eventually, I messaged her and I said, hey, this isn't how I wanted to do it, but I don't get a lot of opportunities. I want to ask you out. Would you be down to go to dinner? And she said yes. And then, we dated. We ended up, along the way, I said, did you ever notice me in the office? And she's like, no. And I was like, what? She was like, no, when guys are in the office, I'm just there to work. I'm not thinking about, the guys around. I'm just not.
No,
and I'm just,
how
it
do you
blows
guys
my
get
mind.
anything done? Like,
we don't. No, that's what it was. And it shocks me and it still rattles my brain because, like, I don't think I'm a bad looking guy. I think in the office, I think I stood out a little. I had long hair at the time, funny enough.
that's funny.
But yeah, so it just, I think, goes to your point, that like she didn't really see me until we were on a date.
Yes, and you shouldn't take
like,
it personally because it's
right.
not you. It's just
Exactly.
the way women operate. It's like getting mad that your girl doesn't know where she wants to eat. It's just
Right.
how we work. It's a biological reality,
Yeah.
right? And so, it's just like I did notice my husband, but like that's because it was already flirty from the start and all these things.
Right.
But like
it wasn't at work.
yeah, that's true too. But that's the thing too. Oh shoot, I was gonna say something. I lost
Sorry.
it. No, you're totally fine. I have ADHD, so I get distracted.
Me too.
Oh, nice. All the best people do. I swear. Yeah, but oh well, we might just have to move on because I can't remember.
All right.
If it comes
Well,
to me, I'll let you know.
Sure. I do have a follow-up question. So let's say a woman does ask a guy out, do you think that she'll feel a certain type of way as the relationship progresses because she's the one that pursued, or do you think that doesn't really factor in?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe for some women that matters, but I would say no. I mean, I know plenty of people who like the girl initially initiated. But I also think that for a lot of women that like, so I don't think she's going to resent you for not having approached her. However, I think that a lot of women are going to be kind of turned on by the fact that you approached her. It's kind of like what we talked about before. It's like you already showed your boldness, your confidence, all these things you already demonstrated in approaching her, right? Like the act of approaching shows that you were confident enough to approach. And so I don't think it's going to like be something that a woman is resentful of. But I do think that if you're constantly just waiting for a girl to approach you, number one, you're just making everything go way slower for you. The chances of a girl approaching you are just really, really low just because, again, the way women operate. But also you are like missing out on the opportunity to show that attractive social quality that I'm confident, I'm bold, I can approach you and hold my own and feel comfortable while I do it. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing not to approach. I don't think it's bad if a woman approaches you. But I do think that it can really help you to make peace with the idea of approaching and get comfortable with it and start practicing it. The other thing too is I said that it's rare that women approach men, but that's not totally true. A lot of times women approach men, but in way, way low level ways. It's almost like women are initiating by telling you, I want you to initiate now. So, playing eyes where you're like looking at somebody and looking away, looking at them, smiling, looking away, that kind of thing. That's something women do, which when you think about it, that's a woman initiating, even though she's waiting for you to come up and initiate with her. Or another one would be like, if she, I just remembered what I was going to say earlier. I hope I don't forget it.
Go for it.
No, I'll come back to it because I don't want to lose this train of thought.
Okay.
So yeah, or another thing that women will do is like, their friend will tell you that you missed a cue, and guys are like, oh, I failed, and I'm like, no, that's your cue. Like you didn't miss the cue.
That is a cue.
Or another thing is a woman will start talking to you, and a lot of times men don't realize they're trying to flirt. And I've got videos on what to do if you're not sure if a girl is flirting. But a lot of times I've heard so many men say like, I realized 3 years later, like, oh shit, that girl was probably trying to talk to me. So I think that like sometimes women do approach, but they just do it in way lower level ways. Because what they're really doing is sort of inviting you to begin the flirting. And so yeah, again, if any guys are listening to this and going like, well, how do I know when that's happening? I've got videos on what to do if you're not sure a girl is flirting with you, and a lot of men have found them really helpful. The thought that I had earlier was we were talking about the, like how, noticing the way men notice women differently than women notice men. Like, I remember talking to my husband once, and I'm like, we were talking about like how many times a day you like think about sex, and I'm like, I'm always like, I know I'm ovulating when I start thinking about it like a million times a day. I'm like, but most of the time, I mean, maybe once a day, maybe. And he's like, I think about your ass like 7 times an hour. And I'm like, yeah, that's a difference. That's a difference between men and women. So I just think it's an interesting concept, and I wanted to say that.
No, I love that. And I also don't like speaking about biology. I'm obviously not a biologist, and I also think we're sentient beings who can like override our biology if we choose
absolutely.
to.
And biology is like, oh, I'm more aroused more easily. Not, I have to do this because,
I
that's
must.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
But I think, like, I'm listening to this book called The Evolution of Desire, which it talks a lot about animals and mating and things like that. And it's like the male peacock, to use a traditional example, is trying to attract women with their feathers. And the feathers that are more colorful say that they don't have parasites and they're a healthy, they're healthy for mating. And I think the peacock probably isn't upset that he has to attract women. It's just what he has to do to attract women. And I think men, when they approach women and show their bravery and their confidence, that's them showing, hey, I'm a healthy, attractive person who will give you maybe safety and stability. And I'm, I won't crumble under pressure. And these are things that women find attractive and find important. So I think that act of approaching is very important to, I think, making a woman feel, safe and feel comfortable and pursuing something with you.
Yeah, it's interesting too because, yes, being physically attractive, being taller, being stronger, those are good for survival of the fittest. But do you know what makes human beings the apex species? What makes them? What is their true survival of the fittest quality? Their
Our
social
communication and
skills.
brain. Yep.
Exactly. Communication, social skills, community building, being able to thrive in a community. So I know there are men that are like, it doesn't matter if you're not attractive or if you're not physically attractive. And it's like, no, that the social skills are always going to be king in attracting women. From a biological and evolutionary perspective, it is. It's not even, oh, he's going to give me stability. It's like, even if this is a casual thing, those social qualities matter. Because if you can be funny and confident, and I mean, what is funniness? It's intelligence and social awareness to be able to know this is a good timing and making other people comfortable and smile around you. That's all humor is. It is displaying that you are proficient with social skills. And I mean, I've seen your videos. Nearly every woman is like, humor is the most important thing, or confidence. I'd say confidence and humor are always like the top things. I've seen your videos where people rank things.
Right. Yeah.
And like that makes sense because when you think about it, being able to socially interact with others successfully is what makes human beings survive in the wild. Way more than a couple inches, way more than a little more muscle, right? And so that's why I think that is always going to be king for human beings, because that's what that is us selecting for survival of the fittest. Yes.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, we also want to make sure there's no parasites. We want to make sure you're healthy. But I think for most men, you do have to be healthy. But I think as long as you focus on health, it doesn't matter if you're the most jacked guy or if you're a skinnier guy or what. Some women might care more or less about certain social or certain physical qualities, just like some men do, right? Some men are like, they really like thick girls or they really like thin girls.
Right.
Sometimes some women will be like, I really like tall guys, or I don't care that much. I care a lot about, I really care about hands. Like, I'm not going to date a guy if he doesn't have hot hands, right? So like that's a big one for me. But different people might have different things that they go, I can't date somebody who doesn't have X, Y, Z. But the vast majority of people, as long as you're healthy, you will find someone who likes you as long as you're healthy and you can display sexy, socially interactive qualities, which often involve confidence, they involve humor, but they also involve plenty of other things.
Empathy, emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. I think that there's not, and like success, boldness, bravery, protectiveness, a million things, right?
Yeah.
I've never met a man who didn't have at least a few socially interactive qualities, but some men I don't think are good at like showing them off, right? They might be sweet, but they don't know how to show that. They might have skills, but they don't know, like they don't know that that's what makes them hot, and so they kind of already gave up the game. I don't know. I've never met a man who didn't have at least one socially interactive quality, and a lot of them are buildable, right? Confidence is something you can work on
Step by step.
Absolutely. And so, and other things too, like having skills, like if there's that joke of like the, some douchebag with an acoustic guitar, like that is hot because it shows that you were able to be determined long enough to focus on something and build a skill that makes you thrive in a community, right? Like skills are hot too. So if you're
100%.
like, I have nothing hot about me, my tips for you would be, forget about the unchangeable qualities like height and whatnot and body type, but instead focus on being healthy for you, whatever that looks like. Get yourself healthy, physically healthy, a little bit of grooming to show that you're clean, healthy, safe, and then focus on building and showing your existing socially interactive qualities. And that's going to make you way more attractive and open up your options like crazy.
100%. In fact, in my handbook that I'm going to release probably within the next month, I'd say, that's exactly what I talk about. I go level by level on those things. And like skills, not only skills because it's a socially interactive quality that also shows that you see things through, but it also helps you build confidence because look what I did.
Yeah.
I learned to play guitar. I didn't know how to play guitar. Now I can play a song that I love, or I can make my own songs, and I think that's cool as shit.
Yes. I think people think motivation leads to action, but actually action leads to motivation.
Exactly. Well, that was awesome. I love the part where you said that communication is one, like humor, the breakdown of humor and why that's attractive and how that's really our strongest evolutionary trait is that. That is why we are the apex speed, and that is why humor and those kinds of things are attractive. It's brilliant.
Exactly.
I never really
know.
thought about that.
I know. Well, you know, it's funny. I'm pretty sure I made that up. So everybody owes me royalties. No, I'm just kidding.
You gotta write a book.
No, but I mean, I know about evolution and survival of the fittest and whatnot. Those are not. I didn't make those up. But I have heard so many people like the reason why you have to be cautious about talking about evolutionary biology is because it's so easy to insert your own sexist ideas.
Red pill.
Yeah, exactly. So many people on the red pill, especially if you don't know what you're talking about, because I mean, evolutionary biology is it's basically making guesses, and that's where the most mistakes happen. And so, you know, you have to be really scientific about it, and you have to, and even then, people make mistakes, right? So, for example, you know, we thought women were gatherers and men were hunters, but that was just somebody just made that up, right? Like that,
Right.
that's not a proven trait. And so a lot of things like people interject their own sexism and racism and a million other things, right? I mean, there's been so many quote unquote science studies that showed that this race was better than that race. And that's
Right.
because people were inputting their own racism or sexism. So that's why you have to be so cautious with it. And I have
Absolutely.
heard so many men who are scientists and are trying to come at it scientifically, and they often talk about like why women are attracted to, you know, successful men, or, you know, men with status, or men with humor, and they're always talking about kind of like oh, this thing about what they can offer, and women are thinking about the children that they're gonna have. And I just call bullshit, because I mean, why is it that men's attraction is all about survival of the fittest and like, you know, procreation, but women's isn't? Like, ours is about like some calculated long-term plan of my own status. Like, no, fuck that. That's just us putting in like this idea of how, you know, women are thinking about all these things. No, when I innately find something attractive, it's probably the same way men innately find something attractive. It's me, you know, following wiring of my ancestors of what's survival of the fittest. And I think that's why like humor is funny, or is attractive in and of itself. Even girls who are looking for short-term flings that know they're not marrying this guy, they still care about that confidence and that status and that, you know, all these other things that we know can be attractive to women. You know, even if you know this man is not gonna marry you and give you his money, it's attractive when a man is generous with his money on you. Like
Exactly.
that's hot in and of itself. And
Right.
so I think that's the thing that I think, you know, it's a good example of how people interject that sexism into evolutionary things. And, you know, it's so much more, I think sometimes you got to really zoom out and really get anti-sexist about it, and that's where you really start to have epiphanies about why things happen. So, yeah. Again, long-winded answer or thought process, but that's what I have to say about that. And that's why
No,
I
I
think,
love it.
you know, even though we did talk a bit about biology, you know, I just want all the listeners to know, like, always interpret that with caution. And if you hear a podcast
Right.
talking about biology, make sure you ask yourself, like, what are their qualifications to be talking about this?
Exactly.
And is there any interjected sexism at play?
Yeah, it's almost like if I say, well, biologically, this happens, it gives as someone who's not aware of the red flag that is, it can sound so compelling. It can sound like, oh, it's the truth.
Oh, here's a great example. Okay, so women are less intelligent because they get pregnant, and so they need to focus on caring for a baby, not like making plans and logical skills. Or women are more intelligent because since they get pregnant, they have to be aware of what things might be detrimental to eat for the baby and all these other things, right? You can take the same facts and explain it in different ways, being
Yep.
sexist one way or the other. And so that's why not just men, everyone has to be careful with biology, because people can take basic facts and superimpose so much on them. Yes, women are the ones that are more likely to get pregnant, but you know, you can take that and run it into tons of different directions, most of which are absolute bullshit.
Exactly. Well, awesome. That brings us to our final segment, which is called Dear Men. And this is where you give your honest advice to men.
Ooh.
So, what is something you wish men knew about pursuing women that they often get wrong?
Okay,
your
I'm changing the question. Because if I'm
That's
writing
fair.
a letter to men, I'm changing
There
it.
it goes. Yeah, it's just a prompt. It's a prompt. You can do whatever you want.
All right, here's what I think I would love to say, because I see this, I've seen your videos. I think your videos are awesome. And I think one of the big comments that men will make is they think the women are lying, or maybe the women are self-unaware. Okay? And they say that, and I the thing I always want to like scream through my phone at them is that like they need to just listen to what the women are saying. Do women know everything? Are they never self-unaware? Of course not. Right. However, when it comes to here's what I want to say. The reason why men often find that women give not the greatest advice is because it's not because women don't know what women want or because women are self-unaware. It's because women don't understand all the factors at play and all the social nuance because no one does. That stuff is really hard. It's really hard to give quality flirting advice because there are so many pieces and parts and nuance in this. It is the most complicated type of social interaction. And so it's very difficult. Women want to give advice and they're going off of a specific man they're picturing, they already have a rapport on, or they give you a tip that's because they read it in a book and they don't know all the little things. And so men are like, if I did that, I'm going to get kicked out of this restaurant because you're so stupid. Like, you don't know. And it's not that women don't know. It's that there's so many social nuance pieces and parts that they're not able to see because no one is able to see. Because that's really hard to do. And that's why I think my advice is special. It's not because I'm a woman that I give good advice. It's because, again, it is my part to break down all that. It's my job to break down all that social nuance. So that being said, it's hard to analyze and give advice on social nuance. That is a hard skill that very few people are good at doing. It's very easy and intuitive, though, to say, I like that, I don't like that. I want this, I don't want that. That is something that 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds can do. So don't act like women don't know what they want, because that's bullshit, right? If you say, I don't want this, I don't like that, I'm going to take it at face value because I respect what you're saying. And I think men need to realize that with women too. Unless you think women are dumber than 2-year-olds, then they are telling the truth when they say, I like that, I don't like that. I want this, I don't want that. Now, are they able to tell you exactly what to do? Are they able to tell you all the things they want and how they interact and all the different pieces and parts? Like, no, that's hard to do. But if they say, I don't like that, or if they say, that's not true, then you should always listen to it because that is easy and intuitive. So now if a woman says, okay, do this as a tip, take it with a grain of thought. She might not know because she's not an expert. Yeah. And I think that's why men feel like they want to listen to men for advice. Because they're going, all right, well, men they have that experience. They have that track record. And I do think men can give good advice in the sense that they know, I did this and it worked. I didn't do that. And you know what I mean? Like, they can look at the data in front of them.
The data, yeah.
Exactly. And so, with women, they might say, well, try this. But again, she's picturing a bunch of underlying factors that she already feels safe, that she already finds the guy X amount of attractive, all these different things. So she's not giving very good actionable tips. Listen to her for the wants, don't wants, likes, don't likes, but don't maybe listen to her tips unless she sounds like, all right, that sounds like it's going to make sense. Whereas with men, they can tell you, here's what to do. Where they struggle is they don't always know why. They might go, I ignored her. I don't know why the hell that worked, right? Like, just like I said in my example earlier, I ignored her, so women must like when you ignore them. But any man who's dated a woman knows women do not like when you ignore them, right? Women don't want you to not give them attention. Attention is my favorite thing. It's the way to my heart, okay? So, I think that where men struggle is they a lot of times give advice based off of, I did this and it worked. And so if men say, hey, this is something that works, by all means, listen to them. That's their experience. And I think that's valid to listen to, but be very cautious about their reasoning because they might have sexist reasoning or just unaware reasoning, things that are just wrong. And they might not even be trying to be misleading, but they might give you things and information about women that's just not true. And not only is that insulting and often misogynistic to women, it's also going to shoot you in the foot in the long term of a relationship and understanding women, because you might know what to do in one context, but you need to know how to have a whole relationship and life with this person. If you actually understand them because you listen to women, you're going to have so much more success in the long term, in the long run. So that's something that I would that's like the big thing that I want to let men know. Like, yes, women might not be able to give you the best advice on what to do all the time. It's hard to give that kind of advice. But listen to their reasoning. Listen to their why. Listen to their likes, don't likes, wants, don't wants. Okay? That's what you need to listen to for women. For men, listen to their data points. I think we should absolutely care about their experience and what they can tell us. But I also think you got to be cautious about their reasoning, and also know that just because they have one data point doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. Negging might work on a woman, but it doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. The reason why negging works, for any guys wondering, which if you don't know what negging is, it's insulting a woman and then later giving her a compliment. And they think that, and they go, well, that really did work for me, so women must like being insulted. No, the reason that works is because of the delayed compliment. It's because when you come in and start giving a woman a bunch of compliments, I don't believe it. But when you show me you don't care about my opinion and you feel like you're not trying to get some reaction out of me, and then you give me a compliment, it's gonna land so much harder. But what's really cool is you don't have to be a jerk to do that. You could just not lay a bunch of compliments on right away, and you can have a conversation, be a regular person, and give that compliment later. It's gonna work just as well, if not better, because you're not gonna piss me off. Right. And so, so yes, like, listen to men's data points, but be cautious of anything that makes you feel like you have to forsake your morals, or anything that sounds fishy in their reasoning, because they know the data, their experience is valid, but they might be giving problematic advice, overarching advice that doesn't need to involve all those things. It could just involve one thing. And they can lead you away from understanding women, which is always going to make things harder for you in the long run and in the short run, really, versus actually understanding women. So you can listen to a little bit of men and women, or find really good self-aware sources of women, really good non-misogynistic sources of men. That's why I think your content is really great, because while you're a man who might not know every little thing about women's thoughts and feelings, you're not at least interjecting a lot of sexist ideas on top of it. I don't have the experience that men have, but I do have a lot of the social nuance. And so I've got the perspective of understanding women's backgrounds, while also understanding, men's valid experiences and how that comes into play in a social skills way, and breaking it down into analytical pieces and parts and actionable tips. So, that's, I think, like, the big tip I would tell men is, like, just because there are flaws in this source or that source, like, you don't have to disregard everything they say. Just because you're going, well, that woman said she cares most about niceness, but, I see her being attracted to that guy, or I see her not liking this guy who's nice. That doesn't mean she's lying. It doesn't mean she's unaware. It just means that there's more than one factor at play, which of course there is. People are very complex. So people, not just women. So I think my big point to men would be, choose your sources wisely, know the strengths and weaknesses of both, and look for the options that are going to kind of give you the best of both worlds.
Incredible. I mean, that's going to help, I think, a lot of men navigate the online spaces of relationship advice. Of course, that is probably the most frequent comment I get from men, is they're lying, or they don't know what they want, or they date the opposite. But what's funny is, I think you gave a counter example earlier about your friend who was like, I only want a tall guy. I only want a tall guy. And then sure enough, she dates somebody that's shorter.
Yeah.
Because the attraction is complicated.
Exactly.
And it's a very complicated thing.
And she wasn't lying about liking height. She always liked the height. It's just, like you said, it's complicated. There's other things that are attractive. Height is not the only attractive thing. It might have been attractive to her, but other things might have been even more attractive to her that she wasn't able to put into words. And so, I that's a great, I should make a video about that, because I think men are always noticing the examples that, like, that are, I guess, like, confirming their own biases. And if you look at everything, you realize, yes, these data points are there, but there's a lot of other data points too.
Yeah, someone I interviewed, I think it was my second podcast that I ever did. She married a guy that was 5'5", and she never expected to marry a guy that was 5'5", because, the first thing she said to him was like, "You're kind of short." And he was like, "So what?" And then, like, his confidence and everything else carried him to marriage and children, and now they live in Hawaii, so. You don't. It is complicated. I think you can have an idea what you want, who you end up falling for. It's a complex soup of emotions.
Yes.
You don't really know what it is.
Yes, and even though there are some women who tell you they care more about height, I mean, that's something that women will tell you. Like, that's another thing. When men are like, "Well, women are lying. They're trying to look good." I'm like, have you met women? They're not trying to look good. Like, they will be mean. Like women will be brutally honest. Like protect your heart. Like, oh my God. So if you want fashion advice, go to a woman. Ideally, a mean woman. So, the thing too is, like, she might very well like tall men or whatever else men. Like, she's not lying about that. But again, if you listen to women, they'll also tell you that they care more about personality than looks. And so she was right. She was right about liking height. She was right about liking personality more. That friend actually will even tell you, I'm really shallow. But I've seen her change her standards when the other hot things were in front of her. And so, yes, people are complex. There are so many factors at play. And you really need to open your mind to that. And you also need to recognize that women and men have some slight tendencies in the way we are aroused, in the way we are motivated. And, understanding that can help you not only just be less bitter and upset, it also can help you apply that and really, work the system to work in your advantage more. And it can be frustrating when you go like, so women don't look at me the way I look at them. Like, yeah, but that's okay, and I'm sad that men don't think about me the way I think about them, but that doesn't mean that one's better or worse. It just is, and it's good to, understand that, not center one or think that it's better.
Yeah. Brenna, you are a treasure. You have so much good information, and I'm going to put all your socials on all my descriptions, because I think any guy who's listening to this, please go check out her playlist. Please check out her channel. She is wonderful. You are going to learn so much and improve your dating life and maybe even your relationship. So thank you again for taking the time. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely check out your book. I'm excited about it. And then also I am working on a book as well. It's not a quick handbook. I don't know when it's going to be out because I'm, again, not the most organized person. But I do have a book that I'm working on. I mean, there's a lot of resources that are free on my TikTok, but it's a little chaotic. I kind of go, I talk about this topic and then that topic. And my book's going to be a little more like straightforward, step by step. So I am working on that. If you want to be able to see anything about it for anybody listening, you can check that out by just following me on the socials. I'm at Brenna Talks Too Much, most places on the internet. And if you check that out, then you'll be able to eventually see updates of when that book comes out. And it's going to be pretty comprehensive so that, people have that in a cohesive way and they can follow, learn all this stuff in a comfortable way. But I've got tons of free resources ready to go online that you can start with as well.
That's awesome. It's about dating, the book?
Yeah, it's about dating. I think it's going to be called How to Talk to Women Without Being Creepy. And it's going to be everything. That says it all. Yeah, it's going to be everything about what creepiness is and, how you can understand it. Different actionable tips in general, but also specific advice for specific examples. Like you're friends with this girl, or she's your coworker, or she's, you see her at the gym. That's a hard thing to do without being creepy. And I got 100%. All kinds of tips like that, as well as tips of like how women view attraction, how women view conceptualized looks. What you need to know, how to make yourself hotter, how to be better in bed, how to give better compliments, all kinds of things, as well as just some basics of understanding women in general. So it's going to be I think, a total hack for anybody who wants to improve their flirting, their dating, their approaching, and their relationships in general. So, definitely keep an eye out for that.
That sounds like a bestseller.
Yeah, the only thing is it's big. I'm like, oh God, I hope it's not so long nobody wants to read it. Yeah.
Comprehensive is good, though.
That's what I figure. I mean, I totally commend you for being able to make like a more small handbook, because I think a lot of men are really desperate for that, and it's a low barrier to entry. But I also want to have something that's like a full, comprehensive, like a Bible or manual to really help men out.
Absolutely.
That is going to be, very straightforward and very real. It's not going to sugarcoat, but it's also going to be respectful to men. But it's also not going to be littered with a bunch of misogynistic holdouts that a lot of dating advice has.
I love it. I'll definitely be helping promote that once it's ready to be released.
Thank you so much, Raphael. I really appreciate it. And it was so fun to be on here.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Women on Men. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, rate, and share the show. Women on Men is produced by Rafael Gomez. Click the links in the description to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Until next time, let's continue the work to bring women and men closer.
Well, what you doing now? I can swing by for a bit if you around. We could grab a drink, I got weed by the pound. I could be there in 20, let me know how that sounds. Yeah, I'm on my way, and I'll be there in a hurry. Take a deep breath, I know you love to worry. Fearing for the worst, but you're so wrong. You know it hasn't happened now in so long. Hang tight, I'm on the way, I got the edibles. We could take a load off, feel incredible. When the burdens of the world bring you to your knees, well, at least save a spot for me. Until then, we